The Art of Fatherhood. How to avoid explosions and conflict. As we stumble forward, trying to make headway and solve the issues that we must face that we don't want to, we must realize if we are playing on our own terms or on the terms of others. To have command and control over our lives, we must play on our own terms and to our own strengths. We must negotiate from our own unique standpoint. We must know if the rules are on our side. We must realize our advantages and our weaknesses. We must lean neither on others nor ourselves too much. The balance will in the end define how far we are able to progress. Yet, this is always easier said than done. Everybody sees things slightly differently. If we can understand that most communication is observation rather than criticism, then we can perhaps begin to heal some of the wounds caused by the sharpness of explosive tongues. It's a minefield and a mindset to try to see cooperation as a higher goal above that of competition, and to realize there are levels to this reality. On some days, the learning curve is steeper than on other days. Part of your mind will always be in conflict with what you must do. At this point, when we check ourselves and come to know who we are, we may gift ourselves the opportunity to remain true, to not oppose who we really are, to not collide in any way with our destiny in a manner that the impact causes destruction, to be a firework and not a bomb, to master the great role of self-control. In human relationships, conflict is the center of the struggle between two people or more. One person's behavior interferes in some way with the needs of another person. While their values may be different, their goals may be the same: betterment, improvement, progression, and perhaps satisfaction. The outcome of the conflict is usually the disruption, even degeneration, of communication, tendentious interpretations, and preference of one's own interests and needs at the expense of the other, which are often associated with conscious damage to the interests and initiatives. Conflict may remain a common part of our lives if we grow up believing that this is normal. We often tend to escape a situation of conflict at the expense of our needs, opinions, or beliefs. This attack on ourselves does not always seem to be the best defense. As we push forward, we may slide back. The common errors in life that lead to conflict are due not to mistakes in action, but are due to mistakes in communication or interpretation. Inaccurate communication only gives rise to the absurd. Just as we decide what we want to buy before we buy it, we often decide how we will think before we are fully able to incorporate the ideas of other people. We begin to plan our response before the other side has even finished their point. We jump the gun, but seem unable to dodge the bullet. We step up only to realize that maybe we need to step back, to breathe, to contemplate, to bide our time, to learn all of the tactics that make up the art of interpersonal heartbreak warfare. Life is full of avoidable and unavoidable common errors, the obfuscation of which is a lifelong pursuit. We, as adventurers, are prime to mistakes in all areas of our lives, and how we spend our time, and why we say what we say, and why we act and react how we do. In accusation without research or evidence, or in how speed replaces logic with need. We rush towards the end zone or finish line with the sole purpose, little aware of what is actually going to happen once we reach our goal. We immerse ourselves in endeavours of ill fate, misfortune, or unintended consequence. Success depends less on the act and more on the reason. Deeper meaning will bring us to the right conclusion. It is more than a feeling. The essence of successful communication lies in the ability to penetrate to the level of needs in common communication. It reveals the real motives of ourselves and other people. We will not achieve a mutual connection, or we will be left with an unbalanced, tilted, one-sided affair if we do not acknowledge what is true. Recognition is the beginning of understanding. Only self-knowledge will allow us to respond sensitively to the needs of others, and ultimately, we can be an inspiration for them. Seldom do we break life down into cause and effect, and rarely do we study the sequences of dominoes and how and why they fall. We fall back on the premise of life just is, but the trouble is that life is a real perfunctory experience. It isn't always what it seems to be. The process of successfully creative communication consists of 4 steps or stages, which are necessary for clarity and focus. Observation. You must be able to describe what you see and hear in a situation that is uncomfortable for you, and relate it accurately and in detail to others in a comprehensible form. Feeling. You must know what feelings are being evoked in you and why. You must be prudent in your judgment and be able to realize conclusions without condemnation. Need. You must be aware that insufficiently fulfilled needs can result in frustration that can lead to conflict. This means not just knowing things, but also applying them. Feedback. The importance of this lies in the fact that it allows us to develop interpersonal competencies, streamline our communication, and change inappropriate behavior. A fluent process is one of the basic components of communication, and at the same time a very important tool of self-knowledge. We usually only tend to change inappropriate patterns of behavior based on the reaction and information of other people in an endless feedback loop. The way information flows provides information for both partners. How they perceive each other, how they experience their contact, communication, conversation, and also what the results of the interaction are. Good feedback actually takes the form of an offer. It does not apply pressure, but relieves pressure. All pressure applied in human relationships is some level of bullying. You must tell yourself that you will not allow yourself to be bullied into making quick decisions on important topics without careful deliberation. Good communication skills and strategies will lead you towards what to say and what not to say. And you may often get things wrong, but then the alternative is to do and say absolutely nothing at all. Always give some context from your side. This is not as unprofessional as it is essential. It helps us to understand the meanings within the actions rather than just focus on the actions themselves. In the end, for successful communication to thrive, we must default to the ultimate resource, which is ourselves and our mind's ability to self-evaluate and think critically. This itself is based on time spent working on our personal attitude, approach, our knowledge base, context, and our skill set, abilities. Logic requires reason, and the result must be the clarity to be able to think critically in a heuristic manner that gives us an almost spiritual sensation and a godlike power. Truthful emotional reactions are the crop and the cut. As such, the frame is just as important as the picture itself. Measure yourself and temper your responses. Misrepresentations are also lies, so avoid the tendency to exaggerate just because it's easier to win against unrealistic claims. You are not in a battle. You are in a war. Amongst the monuments to illusions of victory we stand. The golden rule is to not expect to be perfect, but to expect to be enough and to live to fight another day. For new challenges will come. That is certain. The Art of Fatherhood.